What's up, everyone? Welcome to this day of Philly Sports History for May 3rd, 2023. I'm your host, Jim Montgomery. And, well, finally, Joe won the MVP after probably 3 years where he could have legitimately been considered the MVP. Definitely should have won it last year. And I feel like at this point, I'm kind of just so indifferent to it. I mean, it's a great thing for him. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to downplay it like that. Only a handful of guys have ever won the MVP in Sixers history. But, I mean, I don't know. I want his knee to be better more so than him winning the MVP, and looking forward to hopefully a lengthy playoff run. But congrats to Joe. He is the first one to win it for the Sixers since AI did it in 2001. Pretty convincing fashion, too. It was kind of like a runaway, so I don't know if I don't know. I don't watch enough of Jokic to know really. I know he's good. Don't get me wrong, but just I mean I'm definitely biased from watching Joe every day. So, but congrats to him. They're back in action tonight for Game 2 against the Celtics. He's officially listed as doubtful. I I don't think you're going to see him. And if they would have lost Game 1, I would have felt differently. At this point, like I said the other day, it's a 7-game series. I don't see any necessarily positive to risking him. I know you never know with him. I mean, he could come out in the shoot around today and just say, "Let's go." But chances are we'll see him Friday night when they come back to Philly. So it's going to fall on the same guys again. And I think somebody else is going to have to step up. I don't necessarily see Harden going for 45 again. However, I think he's going to have to be the alpha. And guys like Melton again are going to have to step up. Maxey, Tobias, would love to see just one other person sort of step up and score some points. I do think defensively they got to be better, and I think they will be. I don't necessarily see Boston hitting 75% or whatever it was in the first half, so that's going to be huge. So it's going to be a tough challenge. I mean, Boston's going to be pissed off, but I mean, is it impossible? No, but I mean, seeing Philly on Friday night. I don't necessarily think they're going to punt completely, but I would like to see somebody else step up because I definitely don't see James going for 45. But looking forward to that. They're in action tonight at 8. Tough comeback for the Phils for Bryce Harper last night, 13-1. The Dodgers have just been dominating them this series. And I mean, you have that a lot of times out on the West Coast games for whatever reason. It's just disappointing with the way the Dodgers have been playing, and then you beat Houston 2 out of 3 and then come out like this. So they've actually dropped 3 in a row now. Bryce did go 0 for 4. He looked a little rusty. He acknowledged that, and I think he's the kind of player he'll get it back excuse me, a lot quicker than what most would. So I'm not that concerned. I'd much rather him get his rehab starts here in the majors rather than down in Reading or Lehigh Valley. Trey Turner did hit a home run, the only run for the Phils last night. Back in action this afternoon, looking to salvage a game, avoid the sweep, and have that homestand go 3-3. Union, another tough loss for them out in LA. They lost 4-1 to the LAFC. And they are out of the CONCACAF Champions League tournament now. Made a nice little run for that, but they're back home on Saturday. Now, hopefully, they can focus and they have some work to do to get back into the playoff hunt. But we're going to stick with the Sixers today. All Sixers the rest of the time. We're going to go back to 1981. And on this day, May 3rd, 1981, the Celtics beat the Sixers 91-90 in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Finals up in Boston Garden. Dr. J had 23. Caldwell Jones had 15 rebounds. Larry Bird had 23 points, 11 rebounds for the Celtics. Celtics would go on to beat the Rockets 4-2, but as we mentioned in the Back to the Future Sixers Boston preview, this was one of those battles of a series that Sixers and Celtics had throughout the 80s, late 70s, early 80s. just, I mean, 91-90. That's the kind of, they were all, for the most part, like close series, like tough. A lot of like what we saw the other night. So that I'm definitely thinking a lot of that is going to, I don't see either team blowing each other out necessarily in this series. But on this day, back in 1981, Celtics beat the Sixers 91-90 in Game 7 of the Eastern Conference Final. For our Sixers playoff year spotlight, we're going to continue to spotlight the 80-81 Sixers. So back then they went 62-20, not 62-60, 62-20. Took second place in the division, third in the conference. They ended up tied with the Celtics for the division lead, but the Celtics had the tiebreaker based on a better division record. They they were the defending Eastern Conference champs. They had lost to the Lakers the year before. That was Magic Johnson's rookie year when Kareem got hurt and he had to play center and had like 40-some points. Sixers had Bobby Jones, Dr. J, Mo Cheeks, who were all Hall of Famers on this team. Even their head coach, Billy Cunningham, was a Hall of Famer from back in the 60s. Dr. J led them that year, scoring almost 25 points per game. Caldwell Jones averaged 10 rebounds. Mo Cheeks with 6.9 assists. Other notable players on that team, Darryl Dawkins, Chocolate Thunder, who used to just break backboards for fun. Doug Collins, who was out that season for injury, but you might remember him from being a coach there at the end of the AI era. And the mayor, Steve Mix, who he was one of the color commentators who worked with Mark Zumoff, but the mayor, Steve Mix. Their March that year is what cost them probably the division and the number one seed. And ultimately, I mean, if you're going to lose 91-90 in the Eastern Conference Final, chances are if you have that game at home, it's a much different outcome. So they went 8-7 in March. The Celtics obviously, I think, went like 11-4 or something like that. But it was enough that, I mean, when you end up tied with them, having a bad March like that or a bad month is what's going to kill you. But heading into the playoffs, they beat the Pacers in the first round. They swept them 2-0. They beat the Bucks, who were the 2 seed, 4-3. They had the home court, so I don't know if the NBA back then did it based on record or what, but somehow the Sixers had home court in that series, which again, you go 7 games, you want Game 7 at home, and that's all. Like I said, that cost them in that Celtics series. So they would not defend their Eastern Conference title that year. But some of the team individual accolades, Dr. J was the MVP and All-NBA first team. Bobby Jones and Caldwell Jones were first team All-Defensive NBA. So it was a very, very good Sixers team. But as we know and as we've talked about, they just simply could never get over the hump. They either were losing to the Celtics in the Eastern Conference Final or getting to the final and then losing to the Lakers. I know one year they lost to the Portland Trail Blazers. It's just one of those things that they needed that extra person to get them over the hump. And we know ultimately that was Moses Malone in the 82-83 season. Before we wrap up, an interesting fact about the 81 season in Philly sports, all 4 teams made the playoffs for the second year in a row. And just think about how hard that is for 2 or 3 of the teams to make it. I don't know the official stats, but I know it doesn't happen often. So the fact that they did it 2 years in a row is pretty impressive. So that basically means Flyers, get your shit together. And actually Phillies, get your shit together too for this year. But on this day, back in 1981, Sixers season ended to the Boston Celtics, 4-3 in the Eastern Conference Final. The 80-81 Sixers were not able to defend their title. We'll have more on this 80-81-82 team tomorrow. But looking forward to that Sixers game tonight. Congrats to Joel Embiid for winning the MVP. Let's get that knee healthy so we can go do it. This has been This Day in Philly Sports History. I'm Jim Montgomery. Go have yourselves a Wednesday, and until next time, I'll see you when I see you.